The fluorescent lights above flickered ominously as Marlena stood in the sterile, glass-walled conference room. Her hands trembled slightly, though she clenched them into fists to hide it. Across the table sat 3 executives, faces she had grown familiar with over her 23 years at Quantum Core Technologies. Today, however, their expressions were different. Cold. Detached. "We're sorry, Marlena," said Victor Langston, the CEO, his voice devoid of any sincerity. His perfectly tailored suit and polished cufflinks seemed almost mocking against the grim message he delivered. "It's budget cuts. Nothing personal." Marlena felt the words hit her like a punch to the gut. She stared at him, her mind racing but unable to process what was happening. Budget cuts? After all these years? The irony burned bitterly in her throat. They called it streamlining operations, but everyone knew what that really meant: younger, cheaper labor replacing seasoned professionals who had built this company from the ground up. She glanced down at her hands, weathered by time yet steady as ever. Those same hands had typed lines of code when computers still filled entire rooms, solved crises no one else could untangle, and even saved the company millions during the infamous 2017 cyberattack. But now, they might as well have been invisible for how little they mattered. "Effective immediately," added Claire Hensley, the HR director, sliding a termination letter across the table. Her tone was clipped, efficient, as if reciting a script she'd memorized long ago. "You'll need to clear your desk by noon." Marlena blinked, forcing herself to focus on the moment instead of spiraling into disbelief. Noon? That gave her less than 2 hours to say goodbye to decades of work, memories, and friendships forged within these walls. It wasn't just a job, it was her life. As she rose shakily from the chair, refusing to let them see her cry, something caught her eye outside the window. Beyond the sleek office buildings and bustling streets lay Quantum Core's crown jewel, the Datacenter. A massive structure encased in reinforced steel and state-of-the-art security systems, housing billions of dollars worth of proprietary information. And only one person in the world could access its most critical vaults without triggering an immediate lockdown. Her. The thought struck her like lightning, sharp and undeniable. For years, she had been the sole engineer entrusted with designing the biometric system guarding the data center's inner sanctum. Only her handprint, unique among thousands scanned during development, could unlock the final layer of protection. No duplicates existed, no backups were created. It was a fail-safe measure designed to prevent unauthorized access, even internally. And now, they were firing her. Marlena swallowed hard, her pulse quickening as the implications sank in. Did they not realize what they were doing? Or worse, did they? By noon, Marlena's desk was cleared, her belongings packed into a small cardboard box. Colleagues passed by, offering sympathetic smiles or awkward nods, but none dared linger too long. In corporate America, being fired was contagious, a disease best avoided at all costs. But Marlena didn't care about their pity. As she walked through the labyrinthine hallways for what might be the last time, her thoughts kept circling back to the data center. She couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about cutting costs. Something bigger was at play here, something dangerous. Reaching the lobby, she paused before stepping out into the bright sunlight. Through the tinted windows, she could see the towering silhouette of the data center looming in the distance. Its presence loomed large in her mind as well, whispering secrets only she could hear. "Need a ride?" came a voice behind her. Startled, Marlena turned to find Ethan standing there, holding a set of car keys. He was one of the few people she genuinely trusted at Quantum Core, a junior developer who had once been her mentee. Over the years, he'd proven himself both brilliant and loyal, qualities rare in an industry where ambition often trumped ethics. "I'm fine," she replied automatically, clutching the box tighter to her chest. Ethan frowned, clearly unconvinced. "You don't look fine." "Look, I know you probably don't want to talk about it right now, but, do you need anything?" "Anything at all." Marlena hesitated. There was so much she wanted to say, so many questions swirling in her head. But she couldn't burden him with her suspicions, not yet. Not until she understood them herself. "I'll be okay," she said finally, forcing a weak smile. "Thanks for asking though." He nodded reluctantly, watching as she stepped out onto the sidewalk. The warm spring air did little to ease the chill creeping up her spine. With each step away from the building, Marlena felt more certain of one thing: this wasn't over. Far from it. Later that evening, Marlena sat alone in her dimly lit apartment, staring at the contents of the box scattered across her kitchen table. Old photographs, a cracked coffee mug bearing the company logo, a USB drive filled with files she hadn't touched in years. Each item carried a piece of her past, fragments of a life she feared was slipping irretrievably away. Then there was the envelope. Thin, unassuming, it contained her severance agreement. She hadn't opened it yet. Some part of her resisted reading the fine print, knowing it would only confirm what she already suspected. They were tying up loose ends, ensuring she stayed silent. A sudden knock at the door jolted her from her thoughts. Frowning, she rose cautiously and peered through the peephole. Standing on the other side was a man she didn't recognize, a tall figure dressed in a dark trench coat, his face partially obscured by shadows. "Who is it?" she called out, keeping her voice steady despite the unease prickling her skin. "Ms. Hartwell," the man replied, his tone smooth but firm. "I'm Agent Carter with the Cybersecurity Division. We need to speak with you urgently." Marlena's heart skipped a beat. The Cybersecurity Division? What could they possibly want with her? Slowly, she unlocked the door and cracked it open, leaving the chain latch in place. "What's this about?" she asked, her gaze narrowing suspiciously. Agent Carter held up a badge, flashing it briefly before tucking it back into his pocket. "It's about Quantum Core. Specifically, their data center. We believe there may be a breach imminent, and your expertise is crucial." A breach. The words sent a shiver down her spine. Was this connected to her firing? Or was it mere coincidence? Either way, Marlena knew she couldn't ignore it. If someone was planning to infiltrate the data center, the consequences could be catastrophic, not just for Quantum Core, but for countless others whose lives depended on the integrity of that data. Taking a deep breath, she unlatched the door and stepped aside. "Come in," she said quietly, her mind already racing ahead to what needed to be done. As Agent Carter entered, his eyes swept the room, taking in every detail. "Time is of the essence," he said, pulling out a tablet and tapping rapidly on its screen. "We've intercepted chatter suggesting an attempt will be made tonight. Whoever's behind this knows exactly what they're after, and they won't stop until they get it." Marlena's stomach churned. She had spent years safeguarding that facility, pouring her soul into creating impenetrable defenses. And now those very defenses were compromised, not because of some technical flaw, but because of human greed and oversight. "Tell me everything you know," she demanded, her voice firm despite the turmoil inside her. This was no longer about revenge or vindication. This was about protecting something far greater than herself. Agent Carter nodded grimly. "Here's what we've got." Hours later, Marlena found herself standing outside the data center once again, this time under the cover of darkness. The building loomed before her like a fortress, its imposing silhouette illuminated by floodlights that cast eerie shadows across the pavement. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter, their movements tense and alert. Beside her, Agent Carter adjusted his earpiece, murmuring instructions to his team stationed nearby. "Remember, we can't risk tipping them off," he warned. "If they suspect we're onto them, they'll abort, and we'll lose our chance to catch them." Marlena nodded, her jaw set with determination. Despite the late hour, she felt more alive than she had in months. Adrenaline coursed through her veins, sharpening her senses and pushing aside the fatigue weighing down her body. This was her domain, her battlefield. And she intended to reclaim it. Together, they approached the main entrance, where a nervous-looking guard greeted them. "ID please," he stammered, clearly unnerved by the sudden influx of activity. Marlena handed over her credentials, which had surprisingly remained valid despite her termination earlier that day. Whether it was oversight or deliberate negligence, she didn't know, and frankly she didn't care. All that mattered was getting inside. Once cleared, they moved swiftly toward the inner sanctum, the vault protected by her handprint. As they neared the biometric scanner, Marlena felt a strange mix of emotions: pride, anger, fear. Pride in knowing she had crafted something so secure it could withstand virtually any attack. Anger at the company that had discarded her like yesterday's news. Fear that even her creation might not be enough to stop whatever was coming. "Ready?" Agent Carter asked softly, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Marlena took a deep breath, steadying herself. Then, with deliberate precision, she pressed her palm against the scanner. A soft beep echoed through the corridor, followed by the unmistakable sound of locks disengaging. The door slid open, revealing the heart of the operation, rows upon rows of servers humming softly, their blinking lights casting an ethereal glow throughout the chamber. Somewhere in this vast expanse lay the answers she sought, and perhaps the key to exposing the truth behind her abrupt dismissal. Stepping inside, Marlena began scanning the environment, her trained eyes picking up subtle anomalies others might miss. Something felt off, though she couldn't quite put her finger on it. Meanwhile, Agent Carter communicated silently with his team, coordinating efforts to track down whoever was orchestrating the breach. Suddenly, a faint vibration rippled through the floor beneath their feet. Barely noticeable at first, it grew stronger with each passing second, accompanied by a low-pitched hum that resonated deep within the walls. "What's that?" Marlena whispered, turning to Agent Carter. His expression darkened. "Not good," he muttered, gripping his weapon tightly. "They're already here." Before either of them could react further, alarms blared overhead, piercing the silence with deafening urgency. Red warning lights flashed wildly, bathing the room in blood-red hues. Panic surged through Marlena as realization dawned. Whoever had planned this attack wasn't just trying to steal data, they were attempting to destroy everything. "Get to cover," Agent Carter shouted, shoving her toward a nearby server rack. Bullets ricocheted off metal surfaces as masked intruders stormed into view, their weapons blazing. Marlena ducked instinctively, adrenaline fueling her movements as she scrambled for safety. Amidst the chaos, her mind raced furiously, piecing together fragments of code and logic pathways she had memorized years ago. There had to be a way to shut this down, to neutralize the threat before it escalated beyond control. Spotting a terminal tucked discreetly behind a cluster of equipment, she lunged toward it, fingers flying across the keyboard. Lines of text scrolled rapidly across the screen as she accessed the system's core programming, bypassing layers of encryption with practiced ease. Behind her, gunfire continued to erupt sporadically, punctuated by shouts and crashes as Agent Carter exchanged blows with the invaders. Marlena barely registered the commotion, her focus entirely consumed by the task at hand. One wrong move, one misstep, and it would all unravel. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she located the source of the disturbance, a rogue algorithm embedded deep within the network, designed to overload the servers and trigger a catastrophic meltdown. Someone had planted it deliberately, intending to erase every trace of evidence while simultaneously crippling Quantum Core's infrastructure. With trembling hands, Marlena initiated a countermeasure, deploying a series of commands to isolate and dismantle the malicious code. Sweat dripped down her forehead as she worked tirelessly, aware that failure meant annihilation, not just for the data center, but potentially for innocent lives tied to its operations. Just as the algorithm teetered on the brink of activation, a deafening explosion rocked the chamber, sending shockwaves rippling outward. Debris rained down from above, narrowly missing Marlena as she dove for cover. Smoke filled the air, choking visibility and amplifying the sense of impending doom. Through the haze, she glimpsed Agent Carter grappling with the leader of the assault, a shadowy figure clad in black, his features obscured by a mask. Though outnumbered, the agent fought valiantly, landing blow after blow with calculated precision. Yet, despite his skill, it became increasingly clear that reinforcements were desperately needed. Summoning every ounce of courage left within her, Marlena forced herself back to the terminal. Ignoring the pain radiating through her body, she completed the final sequence required to purge the rogue algorithm. With a triumphant flourish, she hit enter, watching as the screen displayed a single word, success. Relief washed over her momentarily, quickly replaced by renewed determination. The immediate threat may have been neutralized, but the battle was far from over. Questions still lingered unanswered, conspiracies waiting to be unraveled. And Marlena Hartwell, dismissed and underestimated, refused to let anyone forget the value of her contributions, or the power of her resolve. As emergency responders flooded the scene, securing the area and tending to the wounded, Marlena allowed herself a brief moment of respite. Leaning against the cool metal of a server rack, she closed her eyes, letting the reality of the night sink in. She had faced betrayal, danger, and destruction head-on, and emerged victorious. Yet, deep down, she knew this was merely the beginning. Whatever forces drove these events wouldn't rest easily, nor would they relinquish their grip without a fight. But Marlena was ready. Ready to confront the truth, expose the lies, and reclaim her rightful place, not just within Quantum Core, but within the annals of justice itself. The aftermath of the attack left Quantum Core technologies in shambles. The data center, though saved from total destruction, had suffered significant damage. Server racks were scorched, cables frayed, and chunks of the reinforced walls lay crumbled like broken teeth. Emergency crews worked tirelessly to restore order, their flashlights cutting through the haze of smoke that still clung stubbornly to the air. Marlena stood amidst the chaos, her body aching but her mind razor-sharp. She watched as agents hauled away the masked intruders, their faces finally revealed under harsh interrogation lights. Among them was someone she recognized, a mid-level manager named Gregory Reed, whose smug demeanor during company meetings had always rubbed her the wrong way. Seeing him handcuffed and defiant brought a grim satisfaction, but it wasn't enough. Not yet. Agent Carter approached her, his suit rumpled and streaked with soot. He looked exhausted but triumphant. "You did good tonight," he said, offering a rare smile. "If not for you, we'd be looking at a national crisis right now." Marlena nodded absently, her gaze fixed on Gregory being led out of the facility. "Who else is involved?" she asked quietly, her voice cutting through the din of activity around them. This wasn't just his doing. Someone higher up gave the orders. Carter hesitated before answering. "We're working on that. But whoever it is, they've covered their tracks well. For now, all we have is him, and whatever intel he's willing to give us." Marlena clenched her fists, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. She had stopped the immediate threat, but the larger conspiracy remained elusive. Still, she couldn't let herself dwell on what she didn't know, not when there was work to be done. Over the next few days, Marlena found herself back inside Quantum Core's headquarters, not as an employee, but as a consultant brought in by federal investigators. It was a surreal experience, walking those familiar hallways once again, only this time without an ID badge dangling from her neck. People whispered behind her back, some casting sympathetic glances, while others avoided eye contact altogether. She paid them no mind, her focus was elsewhere. In a makeshift war room set up in one of the conference rooms, Marlena pored over documents, security logs, and encrypted files alongside Agent Carter and his team. Every piece of evidence pointed to a carefully orchestrated scheme designed to eliminate her and seize control of the data center. What puzzled her most, however, was the motive. Why go to such lengths? What secrets were hidden within those servers that justified risking everything? Her breakthrough came late one night, when exhaustion blurred the lines between determination and desperation. While reviewing old project proposals, she stumbled upon something unusual, a classified initiative codenamed Eclipse. According to the sparse details available, Eclipse was meant to develop advanced AI capable of predicting market trends with unprecedented accuracy. If successful, it could revolutionize industries, but also grant unparalleled power to whoever controlled it. And then she saw it, Victor Langston's signature at the bottom of the proposal, dated years ago. The same man who had coldly dismissed her with talk of budget cuts, was directly tied to the project. A chill ran down her spine as realization dawned. This wasn't about money or efficiency, it was about silencing anyone who might stand in the way of absolute control. Armed with this new information, Marlena confronted Victor in his corner office the following morning. The pristine space felt suffocating compared to the gritty reality of the data center, its polished surfaces reflecting sunlight like a mask hiding darker truths. "You knew," she accused, slamming the document onto his desk. "You knew exactly what I built into that system, and you fired me anyway." Victor's composure cracked ever so slightly, his eyes darting toward the papers before returning to her face. "I don't know what you're talking about," he lied, his tone betraying a flicker of unease. "Don't insult my intelligence," Marlena snapped, leaning forward. "Eclipse. That's what this is really about, isn't it? You thought if you got rid of me, you could rewrite history, or worse, erase it completely." For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. Then, with a resigned sigh, Victor sank into his chair, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "It doesn't matter anymore," he muttered bitterly. "Even if you expose me, the board won't care. They'll call it collateral damage, and move on. That's how this world works." But Marlena wasn't interested in playing by their rules. With Agent Carter's support, she took her findings straight to the media, releasing a damning exposé that laid bare the corruption festering at the heart of Quantum Core. Within hours, the story went viral, sparking outrage across the country. Investors pulled funding, lawsuits piled up, and the board scrambled to distance themselves from Victor, who was promptly ousted from his position. As for Marlena, she became an unlikely hero. Her name appeared in headlines alongside words like whistleblower and trailblazer. Yet, despite the accolades, she refused to bask in the spotlight. Instead, she used her newfound influence to advocate for transparency and accountability in tech companies, ensuring that no one else would fall victim to the same kind of betrayal she endured. Months later, standing outside the rebuilt data center, Marlena placed her hand against the biometric scanner one final time. The door slid open, revealing rows of gleaming servers humming softly in unison. She stepped inside, taking a moment to appreciate the quiet hum of progress, the result of countless hours of dedication and sacrifice. Though she had walked away from Quantum Core for good, leaving behind titles and paychecks, Marlena knew she hadn't truly lost anything. In fact, she had gained something far more valuable: her voice, her purpose, and the unwavering belief that even in the face of adversity, resilience could change the world. As she turned to leave, the sun breaking through the clouds overhead, Marlena smiled faintly. The battle may have been won, but the fight for justice was far from over, and she intended to see it through, one step at a time.